Welcome to the Writer's Room. So thank you all for filling out the surveys. It was amazing reading them and very illuminating. Finding enough time to write seems to be a big one. The other big one is finding money to fund your projects and writer's block, or really just not knowing how to create a story. So this series of videos from the Writer's Room is about how to find structure for a story, but also how to find structure to create space in your life to write. And this 3-video series is in anticipation of a free class that's going to be coming up in about a week. So please sign up at the April Yvette Thompson's writersroom.weebly.com right away so that you can get on the list for the free class. And it will be a teleclass. You can Skype in or phone in. So you'll have to listen to the videos to keep up. So I hope to see you and hear from you then. But in the interim, I want to take a few minutes and I want to talk about time. Because I sent out an amazing article, and you can read it on April Yvette Thompson's writersroom.weebly.com. And it is, or on the Facebook coaching page, Coaching with April Yvette Thompson. And it's an amazing article about Mark Dawson, who is making $450,000 a year self-publishing on Amazon. And what the one takeaway for me, two major takeaways from that story. One is that he decided that writing was a business, and he was going to give as much time to the business as he did to the creative. And that's a big piece for artists. And it's a big piece for artists right now because we have the internet. We have platforms where we can self-produce now. We don't have to wait for a production company, a television company, a book company, a TV, a network to give us a deal. We can start our own YouTube channel, right? And in starting your own platform, and basically making your own work and getting it out there, the trick to that is a business strategy, right? So that idea that you no longer have the luxury of just being an artist, and who just wants that luxury? I want the power of being able to make myself into a money-making, working full-time artist and not having a job, except being a full-time artist. So I like this idea of what I call the artist entrepreneur. I think it's amazing. I think it's a lot of work. I think it gives you freedom. People are like, oh my God, that's so much work and I have to learn so many skills. I was like, well, right now you're working a corporate job at something you don't like, that's stressful, that is not your dream. And so you spend 8 hours doing that and then a couple hours writing or acting. Right? That's harder to me than learning some business skills that will allow me to be a full-time artist, right? And so that idea of the artist entrepreneur was the big takeaway from that article. The next big takeaway for me was, I keep hearing from people over and over again, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. You have tons of time. You just don't know how to focus. Mark Dawson has 2-3 kids. He commutes 4 hours each morning and each evening to get to work. Can you imagine commuting for 4 hours to go to work and then working an 8 to 10 hour day and then coming home and then getting on a train for another 4 hours to go home and then feed your children and spend time with them? That's crazy. He's just spending as much time on the train as he is working. But you know what? He wrote and writes all of his books on that commute. Toni Morrison is my other favorite example. Toni Morrison was a single mom with boys. Can you imagine? And a teacher. Not rich. School teacher. She wrote 10 of the century's greatest novels at 5 o'clock in the morning before her children got up. Every day. She got up at 5 a.m. and she wrote. Even if it's only just an hour. 5 a.m. No distractions. 5 a.m. And if you don't miss a day writing, then your writing gets faster. Plain and simple. So where are there places in your life that you can steal time? And I am going to give you an exercise that's going to help you identify some places where you can steal time. I want you to write down a list of 5 things that you want to change and have accomplished in the next 5 years. No more than 5. Follow directions. I ask people to list one big thing. They give me a list of 6 things. Well, I can't help you because you're not getting anything done because you wrote a list of 6 things you want to do. I'm asking 5 things that you want to do in the next 5 years. Right? Then I want you to write down 2 things that you want to do in the next year. And then 1 thing you want to do in the next 6 months. I'll wait. Start with the 5 years. 5 things you want to do in 5 years. 2 things you want to do in 1 year. 1 thing you want to do in 6 months. See how that works? How you could actually get that done in that schedule? Okay, I'm going to shut it. I'm waiting. All right. So you've gone and done that. Now I want you to make a list of all the things getting in the way. And I think a better way to phrase all of this is think of it this way. If you had all the money in the world, all the time in the world, and no obstacles to stop you from living as a full-time writer, what would you do? See, because once we get at that, as well as the list of what's stopping you, we can figure out how much your time costs and how to start making enough money, right, to support what you want to do. For example, if you say that you want to make a film in the next 2 years, and the film's budget is $1 million. All right, great. So you have $1 million budget, right? You've got to figure out how much money you need to make or raise to make that happen, right? Then you got to look at your salary. You got to look at your cost of living expenses, right? And that will tell you how much money you need to make to eat and live. You got to tack that onto the budget of the movie, right? Once you have all those figures in front of you, you divide up that number, whatever that budgetary number is, to come up with your hourly rate, right? I'm not going to tell you what my wishes, hopes, and dreams were on my 5-year plan, but let's just say it took about $3.5 million to accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish. And when I wrote down a list of how much it would cost to get those things done, right? And I used the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I love it. I love it because if you actually do what he says do, it works. If you don't, it doesn't work. So you have to pick up the book inside. I'm going to do each exercise as he tells me to do it. What I came up with when I divided that $3.5 million into days, weeks, months, hours, is that I need to make $316 an hour to get to my dream. So what that did with my time was that from that point on, any kind of work that I was doing that was not paying me $316 an hour, I didn't do. That immediately freed up so much time in my life. That meant working for free, doing readings of things that I don't care about, or I sort of care about or just kind of want to be acting. But guess what? Those things were not making my $316 an hour. So they got removed. No free working. Then auditions, all right? It made me then ask questions of my agents and my managers. Okay, so what is the rate of pay for this commercial? What's the rate of pay for 1 day of work? Is this an under 5? What's the rate? Agents know that. They know what kind of contract it is. They know how many days you're going to be working. They know what the daily rate is. They know what your quote is. They can give you a rough figure of, if you book this job, how much money you're going to make. Because now you still got to read the script, memorize the lines, get a coaching with a coach, buy a cute outfit to make it work, and then do the research to do the auditioning and rehearsing to make it work. That's 8 to 10 hours of your time, a couple $100 worth of your money. So you need to make enough money on that job, your $316 an hour, and you have to include your prep time for the audition. If the job is not going to make you that $316 an hour, including the prep time, you don't go to the audition. It's a waste of time and money. When you start organizing your career around what you are worth, you get all the time in the world. That includes temp jobs. When you think of temp jobs, when you think of survival jobs, how much time, and you need to start thinking of time as money. How much time do you spend on that job? I'm talking about getting up in the morning, getting dressed, getting on the train, going to the job, then getting off the train, right? So it's an hour travel both ways, 8-hour day. We're at 10 hours. If you go into overtime, talking about 12 hours. Are you making $316 an hour? No. Time to find something that will get you closer to your numbers. And that, on the short end, I find not going out for anything, not pursuing any activity that's not even close to my $316 an hour, freed up 5 hours in my day. Right? So let's go over that one more time. You write down a list of everything you want to get done in the next 5 years. If you had no obstacles, no blocks, nothing. You had all the time and all the money in the world. What are the 5 things you would do? Then write down what's the one thing you want to get done, 2 things you want to get done in the next year. And then 1 thing you want to get done in the next 6 months. All right. Make a budget of how much all of those things cost. Sky's the limit. Pad the budget 30%. Sky's the limit. You want to make a movie? Throw it in there. It's a $2 million movie. $17 million movie. Put it in there. Put in your how much money you will need to get these things done. Then add in your cost of living. Okay? And, treats and student loans and bills and all of that. Right? If that comes up to $20 million, you're then going to divide that $20 million into how much you need to make per year over the next 5 years, how much you need to make per month, how much you need to make per week, and then how much you need to make per hour. And once you have that figure of how much I need to make per hour, it will then allow you to make choices in your schedule to cut out things that are not getting you to that rate. Right? And what this exercise does is make you focus your energies on your dreams instead of just talking about what's in the way of them. Right? Because what this exercise forces you to do is to tell you how much you're worth per hour, and then you no longer waste your time pursuing things that don't pay you that. I tell you, when I did this, it changed my entire reality. Right? It got me down to another 4 hours free every day where I had nothing to do. I mean, I started feeling that with the things that I wanted to do, and not doing things that weren't in line with my 5-year plan. Right? It's going to take you a while to get up to that hourly rate, but once you've made the transition of saying, I'm going to think of my time as money, then you'll have all the time in the world to write, because you will move things out of the way that you don't need. You need to take care of your children and your family. You don't need to go work for nobody for free because you want to be acting. You don't need to go work on somebody's film for free as crew to learn how to hold a camera. That's not part of your 5-year plan, right? I call this enlightened self-interest. You grab a hold of your time, right? And foremost with your time is your set of dreams for the life that you want to be living. That determines how your time is spent. The other one, and you're going to hate me, is check email once a day. Twice a day to begin with. 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Okay? Here's the next trick with email. You check twice a day. You respond to people once. You don't get in email conversations. They eat up time. Right? You go in at 12 o'clock, you check your emails. Right? You go in at 4 o'clock. If it's something that's time sensitive, like an audition, you respond to that same person today. If not, you get a response. You respond to them tomorrow. In other words, you're talking to somebody once a day. Plain and simple. No more than that. Just once a day. And while you're checking that email at 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you're only on for an hour. It's fantastic. I love this. Now, I want you to start implementing these things over the next week. And then I want you to email me and tell me how it went. AprilYvetteThompsonCoaching@gmail.com. Or you can go to thedreamunlock.com. You can go to April Yvette Thompson's writersroom.com, writersroom.weebly.com. You can go to the Facebook coaching page, right? Tell me how this went. Tell me how much time it freed up. And then we'll talk about writing. I want you to stay tuned for the next video. The next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going to come up in the free class in about a week, which you need to stay tuned for. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about writing and structure, right? And how to think about structure before you even start writing a web series, a play, a screenplay. Super excited? I'm super excited.